Starting over. At approximately 2:25 a.m. this morning, our officers were called. There's 911 calls placed for the reports of shots fired from the area of Arcadia Parkway. Multiple calls for shots fired and/or fireworks. Officers responded to that area and were ultimately flagged down by a resident there who not only confirmed the shots fired / fireworks call, but also indicated that her home may have been struck by a round or by some sort of projectile. Officers then were able to narrow down the area where the shots were coming from to a home there on Arcadia Parkway. Once we had a perimeter established and conducted our business that way, we ended up making contact with the residents at that home. They cooperated and came out of the home, and we then cleared that home just for safety purposes and things like that, and we're conducting interviews with those the residents of that home currently. We don't believe there to be any further danger to the public. Nobody, as far as we know, was injured during this incident, and it's all under investigation still.
What did you see when you arrived on the scene?
Yeah, so obviously at 2:25 a.m. it's very dark. When we have, this isn't uncommon to get calls, especially on New Year's or New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, to get calls for fireworks. And it being early in the morning and dark out, it's difficult to manage and difficult to figure out what exactly is going on. But we were fairly confident early on that it was gunfire because the resident that we initially talked to claimed that she saw a muzzle fire. So that's a pretty good indicator for our officers of what we're dealing with at that point, different from obviously a firework. So that was good information to kind of get up front, and then the investigation kind of unfolded from there. And at that point, still didn't know where they actually came from either, so that was a challenge in and of itself. But we were able to identify the house. The residents of that house came out, cooperated, and it's under investigation now. So
was that the reason for the lockdown and the SWAT vehicle being called in?
Yeah, anytime there's a firearm involved, particularly when it's a neighborhood that's homes are in close proximity to each other. Yeah, we try to just to create a perimeter that establishes safety first and foremost, and in addition to that, additional resources. Anticipating possibly encountering somebody with a firearm, we want to have the proper law enforcement personnel there. So yes.
Any leads as to, was this one shooter, multiple people?
We believe it was just one person at this point. I mean, it's a little early to know for sure yet, but we are fairly confident that it was just one person that was doing the shooting. And that person or persons, we're interviewing currently. So, without getting too much into those details, but.
Do you expect anyone to be placed in custody?
We'll see. I mean, yeah, the investigation's early. We're still conducting interviews, going to process the scene. I mean, there's a process now that takes place. When the situation becomes fairly dynamic at first, right? Obviously, there's a threat to the community. There's shots being fired, that type of thing. But then once we have a pretty good handle on and make sure that the scene is safe, then we can slow down and then begin methodically going through how to investigate this properly and allocating resources. So I anticipate that we'll have additional information later today, possibly, or tomorrow, but definitely, it's early. So.
Are you able to tell us maybe how many rounds were fired?
Unknown. Multiple, though. It was more than one. Unknown exact numbers.
What type of weapon was it? Was it a long gun or was it a handgun?
Unknown at this time.
Have you guys recovered a weapon yet or no?
We're in process of doing that now. I don't know if they've recovered a handgun or a long gun, anything just yet, but we can make those details, public once we're far enough along.
Are the streets cleared out, or are they still being blocked out by police?
I anticipate them being actually open here fairly soon. We'll still obviously have a scene at the home, but in terms of like restricted movement or people sheltering in place, I'm hoping or confident that those restrictions will be lifted here fairly soon, if not already.
Was there any damage done to property?
Right. So the initial person, the resident that contacted us or waved us down as we were responding to the call to the area, officers did in fact go back and locate damage to her home. Whether that's an actual round or a projectile just yet, I mean, we have to, forensically process all that, but it appears that, that matches what she was saying in terms of her house being struck with something. We were able to locate damage to her home that does confirm that. Whether or not it's a round from a gun or something, we still have to go through that process, but it appears that does match up and that she was accurate.
So there was a shelter in place activated?
That I actually don't know if it was officially. A lot of times we'll do like a robocall or something where we'll go out to the surrounding homes and it'll inform people to shelter in place. I don't know. I assume, but again, it's a dangerous thing to just assume that it was done. I imagine it was, but I don't know. And it's difficult nowadays with people. A lot of people don't have landlines to get a hold of, so to get a robocall out to the cell phones and stuff can be a little tricky too. So,
from your initial investigation, can you tell if this was a drive-by situation?
At this time, we don't believe there to be a vehicle involved or a drive-by situation, anything like that. No.
Is there like a target, or was this person just firing aimlessly?
Unknown. I mean, right. So unknown. I mean, just from preliminarily, it sounds like possibly the person was just, firing. But it's too early to know if there was an intended target or if there was something else going on, and that's obviously part of, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, that's part of this process, is to talk to people that were involved, talk to any witnesses, just thoroughly go through it so that we're not, we don't leave any stone unturned, because, yeah, that's a fair point. So.
What a way to start the year.
The hits keep coming, right? But, no, yeah, and I hope, we'll have some more information for you, maybe even later today. So.
Any reason to believe that this could be connected to any of the other crimes we've been seeing lately in the area? There's one on North Clinton Ave, another one in Greece.
No, I mean, not that we have information at this point, and I think that's unlikely.
What would you say to neighbors who may seem uneasy during the overnight hours, who were driving by, couldn't get to their homes?
Yeah, I think, well, one thing I would say is that that's natural. It's natural to be, obviously you see a large police presence on a street, you see SWAT vehicles. I mean, that can be unnerving for any resident, no doubt. I hope that that's a double-edged sword, though, that they feel comforted that, we responded very quickly, had a perimeter established very quickly. We were, fairly certain quickly that there was no further danger to them, that we had the incident at least isolated to a specific home. And that's one of our tasks as law enforcement, is to, when you're creating a perimeter, you don't want that situation or that problem to get larger. Once it's larger, that's bad for us, right? So we set up a perimeter, we contain that, the danger to where we, to a specific home, and then, so yeah, I mean, while they, we can understand the unnerving situation that it was, we were able to get to it very quickly with the proper resources, and that's kudos to our police department and leadership in our town, just having the ability to do that and respond very quickly. We didn't have to wait for an outside agency's SWAT team or personnel. Now, we ask for other agencies' help. We're not ashamed to do that. That happens quite a bit, to be honest with you. We help other agencies, they help us. But we were able to very quickly establish a perimeter with our own personnel and then use our own SWAT team members.
Can you tell us the address of the home or not?
No, it was a home on Arcadia Parkway.
You had contacted these individuals before that you know of?
Unknown if we've had, yeah, don't know. We're getting to it. I mean, that's part of the process that we're going to go through.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yep.